Hello, everyone in my Mysterious Adventures Tours land. This is Maria Schmidt. I am so thrilled that you're here with us tonight. I am so excited about what we're going to do tonight. You know, it's very special for me, all the different places that we go to. Everyone has his own little, let's say, personality. There's something about Scotland that is absolutely magical, that cannot be found anywhere else. We've always gone there looking for phantoms of the witches and maybe those lost in the battlefield, and made really fantastic strides in just going through all its lands and touching the land and feeling the spirits there. I can't replace those memories, but I can introduce new ones. We've never done this before. In fact, I know for a fact that no one has ever done this as well. So I'm extremely happy to introduce our very first, and actually it's not just our first of its time in Scotland, but our first of its type for Mysterious Adventure Tours. We're going to go creatures. Creatures of the furry type? No. Of the wet type? Of the legendary types. When we talk about legends and we talk about mythology and all that, these things are thousands of years old. They don't just come out of nowhere. No one just decides, I'm going to go ahead and make a character like Harry Potter and make it famous and sell my books. No, these legends, these myths, these wonders go through lots of generations, sometimes thousands of years, that have passed through the pagan, the Celtic, and even the Christian lifestyles in these countries. Scotland is above all, has an incredible list of these. And never before have we presented this anthology of mystical creatures and mystical legends in a land of anywhere. But we're starting off on the right foot. We're starting off with Scotland. So in September, we're going to take you there. But you know what? I'm not going to give you any good service describing what we're doing in Scotland. Nah, I engage with the most perfect people to do it. And this particular one, and they will tell you why, is like no other that they've ever done, even in the United States, because it's combining two theories that makes a robust experience. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull in our friends Ken and Lady Anne. Here we go, our ambassadors for the mystical creatures of Scotland. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having us. It's exciting to be here.
Good evening, Maria. Thanks for having us on. This is fun.
And thanks for being part of the Mysterious Adventure Tours family. You're really breaking ground, Ken. You know that, right? Never have we done anything in the cryptid world, right? Never have. So we're starting off, I think, with one of the most respected figures in the industry. You know, you've written so many books and you've done so much TV presentations, educational seminars. God, you've got a resume that cannot be beat. And I know I'm making you blush, and that's okay.
Make me blush.
I can do that because I'm very proud. I'm very proud of that. And of course, your loving partner for life, because you just got engaged and you're going to get married soon. You've combined not just a magical man and woman partnership, but one in the field that holds a lot of promises for us. So go ahead and introduce yourselves for those silly people that don't even know who you are. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. My name is Ken Gerhard, and I'm honored to be a widely recognized cryptozoologist, which means that I've traveled the world, 26 different countries on 6 continents, searching for evidence of unknown and legendary creatures like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Mothman, the Beast of Gévaudan, and many more. And it's quite an amazing vocation. I never planned on doing this for a career. It's just been a lifelong passion since I was a kid. And my mother was a travel agent, so that was a big help as far as getting to get out and explore. Yeah, you're right. This is groundbreaking because I've been familiar with your company for a few years through Ann and others, and like I know that people do like to go out and have mysterious adventures in exotic locations. That's pretty cool way to travel. And but yeah, crypto or cryptid, I should say, tourism is kind of becoming, well, you're the groundbreaker. I think I've heard murmurs of like a Bigfoot cruise and things like that, but this is the first real trip or journey where we get to, travel and explore. It's going to be really cool.
And imagine, and I'm just going, like, my mind is racing all the other phenomenal locations, and I'm just so impressed that you've been around internationally. Of course, not in this capacity, but you've done the research, right? You've done all the hard work to get to this point of delivering something in Scotland. How many times have you gone to Scotland?
Well, I've been to Scotland twice, and wish I would have gone a lot more if time and budget permitted. But it's kind of a cool story. I first traveled to Loch Ness when I was 15 years old back in 1982. My mother arranged for my father and I to go there because she knew I was interested in the Loch Ness Monster, and I spent about a week there conducting research at age 15. I had a movie camera and I was interviewing people and camped along the lake and all that good stuff. So that was quite an impactful event in my young life. And then 2.5 to 3 years ago, I traveled back to Loch Ness for the biggest expedition in 50 years to search for the Loch Ness Monster. There were hundreds of volunteers from around the world that converged on Loch Ness for a few days, and we researched, camped out around the lake, different state. It was pretty high tech, different stations and things, but actually have a water sample here because I took some DNA. You can collect DNA now out of something like water in Loch Ness and do testing stuff. So and yeah, got to meet a lot of people around Loch Ness this last time that are very connected to the investigation of the Loch Ness Monster. So those are the 2 times I've been. And of course, while I was there, I've also traveled to Edinburgh and Glasgow and a couple other places, but none of the locations that we're going to be exploring on this trip other than Loch Ness. It's all new to me, which is pretty exciting.
Very exciting, very exciting. It's funny you should have your little water from Loch Ness, and because we just had a tour and people just flipped out. I mean, I wish those people were coming on here and just validating how beautiful, how exciting Scotland is. And we take you to places that are very unique, undiscovered, not in the normal itinerary of the normal Harry Potter fans. I'm knocking Harry Potter too much right now, but he's fake. We're not, So no, it's they were just absolutely mesmerized by Scotland in a very spiritual way, but to bring in the new depth of what you're bringing into and the stories and the legends and legends, like I said before, legends have been with us thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So they've come out of some kind of raw, right? Some raw experiences that have never left the generations and generational discussions. So, but when they went, I guess what I'm leading to, when they went, we brought them little bottles just like that, and they all got their Loch Ness water. I've been to Loch Ness once, and I will tell you that it was one of the most profound experiences emotionally. I don't get all choked up and all super emotional too easily. Ian knows that. But God, something took over me in Loch Ness. It was the power of that water. And I can't explain it. I've been on lots of, waterfronts all over my entire old life. And never, ever have I felt that way. Like I felt like my emotions were taken over by the power of the water. Did you feel that way when you were there?
Well, certainly. It's an interesting metaphor, but the water of Loch Ness is actually very dark and mysterious, like this tour. So there's 363 billion cubic feet of water in Loch Ness, which is more water than all the other lakes in the United Kingdom combined.
Wow.
It's
Yes.
very deep, 654 to 800 feet deep in places. And the water is very dark because there's a lot of peat and sediment that runs into the water. And so that's been, it's kind of kept the mystery, helped maintain the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster for all these decades of searchers, because it's so difficult once you get below the water, and they've tried submarines and underwater cameras and all that kind of stuff. So, so I think the water is, in that way, to me, it's very profound because it represents mystery.
It does, but this one in the superior level, and Dr. Daddy-O, which I love that a little username, couldn't agree with us more. The water is memory and emotion, but this one's hyped up to the next level. That is incredible. Anyway, that being said, I want to also introduce Lady Anne, because I did not give her justice. So Lady Anne, besides the very esteemed position of being our writer, she writes the most beautiful pages, and she brings them all. She traveled with us back in 2022, and that experience was, I think, left a remnant. I don't know what I want to say, a permanency in her soul. And it's she was like, being such a good writer, to bring that energy from what she did in Ireland was a phenomenal. And I'm so happy to have you with us. But Anne, let us know a little bit more about Lady Anne. And
of course. Well, thank you so much. It has been an honor to be a part of this company since all the way back when we traveled to Ireland. I am an author, and I had a podcast called the Caravan Library of Lore, and then I ended up creating a radio station where I hosted everybody's podcast, within this field. I come from more of a background where I'm an experiencer. So that's what my first book is about, is all the more supernatural, metaphysical experiences that I've had since my earliest memories. And I also am a lifelong Reiki practitioner. I started doing that when I was 15. And, the intuitive readings that I've done, one of the things that I loved so much when we were in Ireland, and it was just kind of like this off idea that I had brought Scrabble tiles.
I remember that.
Because I feel like
who's this wild chick bringing these playing Scrabble in the middle of a haunted?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and see, I think that when you're tuned in, anything can be used as a sign or to be able to connect, So I had brought the Scrabble tiles to Charleville Castle. And so they were in this velvet bag, and I had this little, tablecloth that I could put them on. And, you just kind of feel how many you're supposed to grab, and you put them down. And sure enough, the name Harriet was in the title.
I know. I remember that.
And Harriet was...
Who is Harriet?
Harriet was, unfortunately, she was a little girl that tragically passed away. She had been sliding down the rail of the stairs, and the staircase was so grand. I mean, this thing was incredible. But so her name came through there. And there was some other times as well that stuff like that came through. So it was, and it's true. This was such a transformative experience for me. And of course, being the writer that I am, I had a journal with me. And every single time we got back on the bus, I was just writing everything that I felt and experienced, So for me, I come from the metaphysical, spiritual type of a background. And what makes this tour so incredible is the fact that I come from that world, and then you come from the scientific-based world. And there's been a lot of I don't know, how do you say, like in the community, sometimes there's camps where it's one or the other. But through all of our interactions and the travels that we've done, we found a lot of bridges that actually exist between them. And I don't think that that's ever really seen enough, which is also why this is so groundbreaking and so exciting. So
I remember when we first started talking about this, and we thought about this. We thought about that connection that you guys are naturally creating, you know. And I asked a silly question. I said, could it be, this is just me, you know, guys, I'll just ask the dumbest questions because I come from a dumb level here, you know. I'm good at getting those hotels, but I'm really dumb about these very
there's no
things.
stupid questions ever. They all lead us to education. So
yeah, and it did, because it made Ken go like, you know, and you as well. And I said, could it be that the reason that we don't see Bigfoots too often is because the ones, well, we don't see, or we don't find their traces, I should say. Could it be is that we're looking at a spiritual image of what used to be a Bigfoot, you know? If you can see animals, you know, when they pass, a lot of people do see animals when they pass. If you can definitely see human beings when they pass. What's to stop us from seeing good old, you know, Bigfoot, you know, that died 30 years ago, and he still loves that, hang out on that in the woods. So, you know, and I don't know if that's ever been explored. And, you know, I think it just opens up a new channel of, you know, what ifs, right?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. You know, it also puts on like epigenetics and different things like that on the table because, you know, I think that a lot of things that happen in ancient times, you know, I know that for me, like I'm 70% Celtic. So I have a lot of clans that I descend from that are in Scotland. And there's different things that I've noticed in my life, you know, today that it's like, I wonder if I got that from, you know, a great grandpappy over, and you know what I mean? Because these things are passed down. But that also means, I think, that if, you know, if our ancestors had interactions with, what was it, Gigantopithecus or Homo erectus, what is
there's different Bigfoot-like things that lived in the Pleistocene thousands of years ago. So you could pick one.
Right. Well,
I mean, we talk about Scotland. You had throughout Europe, you had Neanderthals, which were, you know, kind of our subspecies. They were pretty prevalent during that time period throughout Europe. So maybe the ghost of something like that.
Right. Or if it was, I mean, because the other question is it a ghost or is it a vision that you are having that is epigenetically passed down? So a memory from, you know, one of your ancestors or something.
That's something that's been proposed by cultural anthropologists, is that the idea of things like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti, or the big gray man of Scotland are basically cultural memories that our ancestors had dramatic and perhaps traumatic encounters with these subhuman creatures, you know, hominins is the scientific word, thousands of years ago. And somehow we've passed that memory on through generations, as Anna's saying, and that we have this idea, because the idea of Bigfoot, and I'm convinced that Bigfoot exists, Maria, so don't get me the wrong way, but I'm just arguing for the other side here. If they say, okay, well, you have on every continent, you have Bigfoot or Sasquatch here, we have the Yeti in Asia, the Australian Yowie, South American Mapinguari, you know, so it's like, why are these things reported everywhere? Why are there wild men like satyrs and different, you know, different mythologies, these hair-covered man-like creatures running around in the woods? So it's fascinating.
Well, and another thing too, if I can add on to that, it's one of those things where, you know, with my personal experience that I had in Ohio, everything was very similar to being the flesh and blood Bigfoot that you talk about. But then there was an aspect that did not seem physical at all. It seemed like it was something else, but it seemed like it could have been more of a shapeshifter. So if there's a being, right, if there's a being that can be a shapeshifter, can it see within our, you know, our energy and our epigenetics or whatever, something from far back that it could manifest as that would be like an instinctive fear. Kind of like how we have, fear of snakes or spiders or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's also another way to look at it.
It's a good point.
So,
yeah.
A lot of them that we discussed that we're going to they're part of our story for 10 days are the Kelpies. And the Kelpies are very famous because they have beautiful, big statues that are just incredible. But people, they see that as, there's two horses and they're gigantic and they look gorgeous. No, it's first of all, they're not nice. They're not nice, but they're they're shape-shifting, right? And they're one of the oldest legends in Scotland. And, we're going to go see those Kelpies in the big statues, but we're going to chase the Kelpies where they belong in the waters out there in Scotland. So that's, and again, these are shape shifters. And that's what I see a little bit of Scotland. They're a little bit more into the mythology and the legends and these, what do I call them? Creatures. I call them, creatures or, elementals, whatever. We're all going to put them in the category because they're not humanistic, right? They're not humanistic. So it's going to be interesting. When we started talking about that and we started talking about, is there a connection between, the psychometaphysical world and the cryptic world?
Right.
I started pulling out, there was an abundant amount of white papers that were done by scholars. So this is something that is not, I don't think the Inquirer is out there anymore, but it's not something we will put in an Inquirer. It's something that it is absolutely backed up by a lot of, academia. And nothing stirs my heart more than that as a former clinician. So, yeah. Let us know, Ken. I know you've got a few spots that you're just kind of hot and bothered about. And by the way, if you've ever been to Scotland and you're watching the show, would you please make a comment? Or if you just love Ann and Ken, make a comment. We want to give you recognition. If you adore me, I'll give you double points if you put a little comment on there. Double points, double hugs for Maria. We just want to know that you're there and we want to recognize you. So I appreciate that if you could do that. All right, so let's talk about, Ken, your favorite 4 or 5 places that are so intriguing for you to go visit and explore.
Well, as far as the itinerary goes, I think it's got a few really cool. I mean, it all sounds amazing, but there are a few really cool mysteries that I think are worth exploring. So I mentioned the Big Gray Man, or the Fair Liamore, which is in Gaelic, which is been described by mountaineers that have been climbing in the Cairngorm Mountains, is a mountain range. It includes the second highest peak in Britain, which is Ben Macdui. And there have been several climbers dating back to the 1800s, but more recently in the early 1900s, that were climbing that mountain and reported first they had this like feeling of dread, like something was really wrong and kind of out of sorts. But then all of them described seeing kind of a giant towering man-like figure coming down the mountain or coming up behind them. And on a couple of the descriptions describe something man-like standing about 10 to 20 feet tall. So we're talking about a real giant here, gray or brown. And some of the better descriptions include like pointy ears and long toes like talons. And there's, again, this feeling of panic or dread that's associated with the appearance of this being. Now, the Cairngorms are already strange, Maria, because you have accounts of phantom sounds, phantom music and footsteps and just eerie feelings. And, so it's kind of already a kind of a intriguing place. But this Big Gray Man thing, I mean, it's often been kind of linked to potentially things like the Yeti because it's up in the mountains, and Yetis are often gray or brown, I guess. And it kind of bridges that, straddles that line that we were just talking about. Is it Could it be some kind of giant, hairy, man-like? Probably unlikely, but it is similar. The descriptions are similar to other worldwide mountain giants. But on the other hand, it has this kind of spectral aspect as well, where it's kind of, it's a phantom, and it's kind of it comes through the mist, in a very amorphous way, and just the feeling of anxiety and dread that these mountaineers felt right before they saw this thing. So it's something I've always wanted to visit this location and investigate, because I think it's it embodies kind of new world cryptozoology with things like the Sasquatch and Yeti, but also kind of touches back into that primordial time when you have kind of ancient giants, lurking in the mist shrouded hills of the highlands.
Yeah, and the fact that a few people saw it, it was just not isolated to one person, right? So there's
a book written about all of the sightings in it.
And what's the name of the book again?
It's by a gentleman named Affleck Gray. Coincidentally, he was a mountain climber and knew all these people that had encountered this thing in the Cairngorms, and the book is called The Big Gray Man.
Wow. So good read. I mean, if you want to prepare for this trip, guys, this is what we got to do. You got to do your reading. So you're going to be transferred to a new science in the cryptid zone, because it's totally different than what we have here in the United States. Would you say that, Ken? It's different.
Very, very different vibe. I mean, what I love about Scotland is that the habitat reminds me very much of, where we are up here in beautiful upstate New York, or where she's from in Oregon, or, Canada, some of these, Alaska, some of these places I've traveled that has like beautiful hills, mountains, trees, and just, that kind of that highland feel. But it's very different. And another great example, Maria, is, we're going to visit the battlefield of Culloden Moor, which has kind of a tragic history. But back on April 16th, 1746, I believe, there was this battle fought between the Jacobites, led by Stuart, and he was trying to reclaim the throne of Scotland from the British. And 1,500 to 2,000 Jacobite soldiers were massacred in about an hour. It was a pretty bloody battle. But according to many accounts, the night before, a harpy-like creature, winged creature, flew over the battlefield, and many, hundreds of soldiers looked up and saw this flying creature with black bat-like wings and glowing red eyes, and very similar to the banshee in Ireland. The scree it's almost like a Mothman type figure, because it was considered to be a kind of a harbinger of this massacre that occurred the next day, that all these Jacobite soldiers were tragically slaughtered. So that one has an element of familiarity to me. I've researched the Mothman here in the United States, and, similar creatures and winged humanoid creatures down in Mexico and other places. But the fact that this one was connected to this famous battle, and just visiting this battlefield, which I'm sure Anne's excited about, because it's going to be adorned with history and the graves and tombs of the fallen there. And
right. Well, and I had my ancestors fought on both sides, so it's going to be very, very powerful. I descend from Stuart being one of the, so it's going to be,
very, very,
very
profound.
Powerful.
So it's already ignited with a lot of lost souls, distressful souls. So probably the energy there is humongous. I've been there. It's near at the very edge of the highlands, or real close to the highlands. So it's got that power of those mountains. And if you've never seen the highlands before, guys, you have no idea what you'll never find these type of beautiful monuments ever again. Scotland is unbelievable. Everything you've heard about Scotland is 100% true. And as far as its beauty is concerned, there's no regrets. You will have no regrets there. So you took us to another creature, and I know there's probably a few other bucket lists that you want to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about kelpies, which, as you said, are very kelpies are shape-shifting water spirits that often look like a water horse, as you mentioned, the horse-like heads, sometimes a serpentine body, but they're very dangerous. They will drag people down into the depths and drown them. And they are said to be exclusively in the rivers and lochs of Scotland. And then there's also the selkies, which are shape-shifting, but are more associated with seals, and they shape-shift between seals and beautiful women. And those are more associated with the coastline and the ocean. But it might surprise people, Maria, to learn that Scotland actually has a pretty rich and fairly recent history of mermaid accounts on the coast.
You are reading my mind.
As recently as 1949, there were many fishermen off a place called Craigmore that claimed that they saw an actual mermaid. So that's, just a little over, or actually a little less than a century ago, right? But there's also, unfortunately, we're not going to get to visit this particular location because it's in the Hebrides and we don't have time to go there. But there's allegedly a mermaid that was found off the coast there. She was first encountered by some local people as they were going out to the sea, but to wade in the water. But one boy threw a rock at her, and I don't know if they found the body of this creature a few days later. And this is on Benbecula is the name of the island. And the locals discovered this, and according to the description, this was in 1820. It was about the size of a child, but this creature definitely had like the upper half of a woman, and then the lower half was more like some type of fish or salmon. And they had a funeral for this mermaid, and she was allegedly buried in a location on a farmyard there. And a colleague of mine went and investigated this years ago and tried to find the grave, and had a great adventure, but I don't know if he located it. But many accounts of mermaids off the coast of Scotland throughout the 1800s and even into the 1900s. So for people that are curious about the idea of something like a mermaid could actually exist, I mean, I guess if you were going to go search for them, Scotland would be the place to go. So,
exactly.
We're going to go to a location where there's been sightings of mermaids, and we'll talk about all the selkies and kelpies and all of these water spirits.
Are there activities that are going to be a little different that you normally do in the United States that we haven't done, and that will add to a little bit of the investigative, a little bit more formal investigation? And what kind of activities should we expect from you, Ken and Anne?
Well, what about going on the lake in the boat?
Well, at Loch Ness, we're definitely going to be doing some intensive research because, we're hopefully going to be, there have been famous sightings all around Loch Ness, and I can certainly in a day's time, a day or two's time, we can go and visit some of the locations, many locations where there have been famous sightings and films. We can go visit the most tenured investigator of the Loch Ness Monster. He's a friend of mine named Steve Feltham. He's been camped out there on Dorse Beach for about 30 plus years in a caravan searching for the Loch Ness Monster. And he actually makes these cute little Nessie sculptures. That's how he supports himself in his Loch Ness habit. As he sells.
I remember meeting him when I was up there.
He's a real
awesome
cool guy.
Yeah, maybe that's why I was crying. I don't know.
I also know the Exploration Loch Ness, the most recent teams that are out there, guys like Alan McKenna and
awesome people,
Roland Watson. And so I'm tied into that whole community of investigators there. So I know, the spots to go, the times of day to look and search, and we can certainly, even hit the water and go out on a boat and, tour around Urquhart Bay. And, sometimes gadgets can come out too. I've got access to gadgets, so we might play around with underwater microphones or, who knows. But
and that's intriguing also, just to be able to study, like you said, the DNAs of, they're the remnants DNA that can be found in the water, or the microorganisms to be really. When you were talking about that skeleton, oh well, that mermaid that they found, they put to rest, and child-sized mermaid. I say, God, if that would have happened 100 years later, we can just get some DNA out of that one, and I'm sure that's something that, in time we'll do.
Maybe someday
I think
find that grave. Eh?
You know what? I think we're going to find something like that, and we're just going to put that body in a pack of ice and bring it back home, right? I mean, customs might have a problem with that, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I hope that folks are looking at this as an opportunity to really, like you said, it's groundbreaking. And it's something to bring, back some incredible memories. And I think with just the adventures of looking into these creatures, hearing their stories, participating in some of these activities that really are very sophisticated, very well researched, well backed up by this team. But you're also going to have a transformational experience. There is no doubt, because that is one of the perks of Scotland. And I just can't explain how that feels. And that's probably why Scotland continues to be such a magical land, and people just salivate to go to Scotland. They really do. And I hope that folks have a chance to do this. If you're interested, we're going to try to put together some really good incentives. There's one right now happening, but we're going to make this doable for you. So do join our mailing list, or at least download that brochure, and we'll put on the comments, we'll put the link to where you can find that brochure, and look it up. Just print it and put it next to a white candle, and maybe it will materialize for you. But we will be offering some very attractive, and right now it's still an attractive payment plan, no interest, and we just chop off a little bit every single month. It's quite for the extent of the experience that you're getting, the locations that we're going, to be with Ken and Ann for 10 days. I think I'm going to go ahead and double the price on this tour, because that's what it's worth. That's what it's worth. Just to be with you for 10 days, and the gatherings that we'll have at night, the discussions that we're going to have at night. This is not something that shuts off at 5 o'clock. This is something we carry through 10 days with you as friends, as colleagues, as partners in the world of the unknown and discovering the unknown. What an incredible experience, and first for us, and I believe first in Scotland. So good place to start it off with. Any other, comments or any things that you want to add to that?
Well, just a couple more that I'll mention, because if it doesn't sound good enough already,
let's keep it going. I'm amazed. Thank you, Ken.
So we're going to be visiting Rosslyn Castle.
Yes,
an incredible history, but there are many alleged phantoms and apparitions said to haunt Rosslyn Castle. But one of the most interesting to me is a phantom black hellhound or devil dog, which is, this is a big thing in the United Kingdom. One of the most prevalent mythological creatures throughout the British Isles is called the Black Shuck. It has many different names: Hairy Jack, Trotfoot, and so forth. But these phantom black dogs, they're described as kind of apparitions that appear. They're much larger and more fierce than regular dogs, very black and shaggy with glowing red eyes like big embers. And they're often said to haunt, around cemeteries and bridges and things like that. But there is supposedly one at Rosslyn Castle, and there's a story attached to it. It was a war dog that was accompanying a soldier that was defending the castle. I believe there was a great battle there in 1306 or 1302. I'm not exactly sure, but this dog was slain alongside his master, and but the dog supposedly still haunts the castle grounds and lets out this blood-curdling howls and things. So so that's a really fascinating mystery, because it's such a prevalent thing throughout the British Isles, where you have these phantom black dogs, you know, that are again, they kind of vanish. Oh, they smell like sulfur too. I forgot to mention that. They have a very bad smell. So we'll talk about we'll definitely talk about phantom hellhounds and dogs. And oh gosh, Maria, this one that you suggested, it was Glam's Castle, which is you know, another very old cool castle with ghosts and different spirits and apparitions. But one in particular is really creepy to me, and that's the it's called the Monster of Glam's Castle. And the story behind that goes is that there was an heir to the castle, and he was born horribly disfigured. And some described him as kind of a man toad, like half man, half toad, like really grotesque. And according to the legend, the family actually kept this as a dark secret, and he was hidden in a concealed secret chamber in the castle walls. And I don't know if he still exists there or dwells there, but there are also people that say the ghost of this monstrosity. So this is like a really, you know, thinking about an old castle like this in Scotland, and the story of the abomination. It's an H.P. Lovecraft story or something.
It's like a 2-for-1. So for people think that they're just going to get stuck in the woods or floating on water. No. We're going to go to some of these castles that actually have history with these creatures as well. So yeah, so we'll leave nothing untouched. We'll leave nothing untouched, you know. And of course, for those that know Maria, we're going to stop in Danino Den. And because, you know, that's my little hidden wonder in Scotland. And if you don't know about Danino Den, I'm going to keep you wondering, because that is one of my favorite spots in the world. And I believe, Anne, you wrote an article about Danino Den. And it is an incredible spot. And what we'll find there are fairies. So fairies and the fae, they're also entities that we will also be paying tribute to in Scotland, because they do off their chapter in this mythology, you know. So
definitely as well. Speaking of the blog, keep your eye on the blog as we get closer and closer, because we'll have stories that will, you know, kind of tell about the places that we're going to go and kind of give you a little taste as we get there, along with all the other beautiful tours that are going on with the company. So it's exciting, and I love the story aspect, which also that's another thing that I'm excited for with this tour is the campfire tales.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be
I can't wait.
We can talk Scottish vampires, and they have werewolves known as the Wolver, and all kinds of you know, spooky creatures lurking in the shadows.
This is going to get packed full, but at the same time we're going to give you plenty of time to really lurk and feel the land. And because without that connection, we are starting in Edinburgh and we will end in Edinburgh. And so with that, you're going to get an incredible city that's it's so magical. It's so, anyone that's been there can tell you, it's not only just the ghosts and the phantoms, but it is just the vibe there. It's so drenched with overall mysticism, you know, such history that's there as well, right? So I've got the little our website, and you guys should know this by heart, but if you don't, it's there for you. Mysterious Adventures Tours, and that's with an S after each of those words, mysteriousAdventurestours.com, and you will see their Scotland tour there. If you have any questions about it, you know, first of all, the first thing you have to do is download the brochure, okay? Look at it and gawk and put it next to that white candle to make sure you can get there. But if you have any questions, reach out to us or reach out to Ken and Anne. you know, and they'll drop their little handle on the comments later on. So if, you know, are you thinking about this, or maybe challenges? Have you thought about doing this in Scotland while you're there? So we're pretty open-minded about making this a really vibrant and fluid experience as well, because when you say to strict itineraries that you don't bend, you miss out on a lot of things that the spirit tells you to do that we're not doing. And so I always tell my guests, my travelers, that once in a while we take that little detour, you know, because we're kind of shown that we have to go there. And those are the most magical moments, you know. And I'm surprised that no one has asked if we're going to go see the coos. What are those coos? Does anybody know? The Highland cows.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful animals or creatures. And they're ugly as sin, but you want to go and hug them because they're so adorable, especially the little calves, you know.
Right.
The Highland, I wish I can just bring you a picture on that. If you want to see a coo for real, join us. We're gonna go ahead and stop at a coo factory. No, not farm. Did I say factory? Oh my God. I'm gonna get the animal people behind me.
Together in Scotland.
And I consider that a magical creature only belonging to Scotland. So you can't visit Scotland without seeing those coos and rubbing yourself against it. So anyway, yeah. So if there's any questions, we have our comments up and going, and I'd love to see what, you know, any comments. And I know this is going to live out there for a little while because this was you know, a spontaneous live stream. We'll be offering more, maybe some, you know, some other kind of ideas that have to do with Scotland and the cryptoids and stuff. We're very creative. We'll bring some of that for you. For those that don't know, you know, we will be doing some live streams when we go to Scotland. But being on the other side of the camera is a lot more exciting than being, you know, in the viewing side, right? So we're hoping that everybody will choose to come with the Mysterious Adventures tours with Ken and Ann. And with all that being said, thank you so much for all you do. And I do hope that, Anne, you bring, and I'm sure you will, bring the journal so you can write up a lot of stuff. And Ken, I want to see that book published, the Creatures of Scotland. I think we have room on your, right, on your shelf. For a new,
good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Creatures of Scotland. I like it.
For sure.
I do too.
You have your essential guide to the Loch Ness Monster as well that people could get before the tour, which would also, you know, be exciting. So
you do? Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Go get it, Anne. Go get it. I did not realize that. So you're already up ahead.
It's backwards, but
is it backwards?
Yeah.
We're talking to an expert on this, you know. Damn it, if you don't find Nessie with all that work you've done and all the talent you're bringing in, absolutely.
I'll teach you everything you need to know and a lot that you don't want to know about the Loch Ness Monster.
God, I did not know, and I'm sorry for my lack of knowledge on that. That is pretty. You've got me. You've got me speechless, and not too many people get me speechless. You know, ask my husband that. So anyway, again, thank you so much for an incredible evening, and you know, I want you guys to share this for us. Be our friends. You know, if you're one of the first few people to witness this live stream, show it off and share it with your friends and say, look where I'm thinking of going to. With that all being said, I thank you, Anne and Ken, for being a part of this.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And again, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and just, you know, get on our fan page, get on my private page, get on Ken's private page, stalk us, ask us for more information, and we'll handle it. And any kind of anything that we can do at Mysterious Adventure Tours to make this a reality for you, just give me a call. I'm small enough that I want to work with you and I want to help you to get there. So all that being said, good night, have a safe night, and above all, God bless you all, and thank you for following the three of us. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks for listening in.